Even though the wait for Build 42 is dragging on, the modding community of Project Zomboid continues to keep players interested by providing some crazy new mechanics, quality of life features, and performance improvements. The months of September and October have certainly been no exception to that rule. If you haven't seen one of these videos before, I'll be collecting up some of the best mods from the last month or two across the Steam Workshop and bringing them into the spotlight for you folks at home. You'll find a link to all of the mods in this video down in the description as part of a handy mod pack, and if you find one or two that you'd like to try, maybe drop the video a like and subscribe for more videos like this one. Alright, let's get into it. So I wanted to kick off this video with a mod that's been making some real waves in the Project Zomboid community in recent weeks, and that's the Day 1 mod. For those that aren't familiar yet though, it's something you absolutely need to know about. Essentially, this mod allows you to play out the initial outbreak over the course of your first in-game day, and the most important part of that is other people. This mod uses actual NPCs to replicate Outbreak Day, and it does a pretty amazing job of it too. You can expect other survivors either by themselves or forming small groups. They might try to stick with you for a while, or if you happen to hit them, regardless of whether it's accidental or not, they'll turn on you and try to take you out. There are a bunch of other events on a timed schedule in this mod, such as large groups of police or military personnel, bombing runs, and even A10 Warthog gun runs. That was an A10. I don't want to spoil everything about this one, so there are a couple of other things you can look forward to by playing it for yourself, or you can watch the video that I posted on this mod recently where Lucy and I took a couple of runs at this challenge ourselves. Now, heads up, there are some issues with this one. The AI can act a little funny at times and get in the way. There's no way to untarget them, as it were, and I'm not quite sure why the military are bombing remote locations like the Knob Creek Hunting Lodge, but it's still an absolute blast to experience for yourself, so long as you're up for a challenge where the odds are definitely stacked against you. Okay, so we've had a pretty big mod to kick things off. Let's look at a couple of quality of life mods now that, while they aren't going to make any groundbreaking new mechanics available, they will make your game that little bit better. The first one I've got for you is every missing vanilla food static model, and it does exactly what the name suggests. In vanilla Project Zomboid, there are a bunch of items that don't show up in your character's hand when eating, which can be a bit of an immersion breaker when some of the items do show up and others don't. With this mod in use, every single item that's part of the vanilla game will now have an appropriate model when your character consumes them. Nothing major, but a really nice touch to any playthrough to help make sure things look the part. Now, this next one, as small as it might seem, has always been a pet peeve for me when it comes to Project Zomboid. I hope I'm not alone here actually, so has anyone else thought that the baseball caps in the game just look kind of comically large on the character's heads? They're so huge and they just kind of float off the sides of the character's head rather than actually looking like they're properly wearing it. Well, if you share my gripe with this, the mod Baseball Caps Overhaul quite simply makes these look a little bit better by providing a new model for all of the baseball caps and making them fit better to most hairstyles too. Now, keep in mind, this is just a replacement for the vanilla models, so if you're running other clothing mods, those won't be affected by this change. Alright, so that leaves me with just one quality of life mod in this batch, and we're sticking to clothing for this one too. This is visible belts, which, as the name suggests, simply applies a model to the character for the belt you're wearing but have never been able to see until now. You can actually wear it tight or loose. One option hides the model and reverts to vanilla, the other shows the belt, so you can make some changes for each outfit you're wearing. Okay, so the next mod in today's list is for all the players that have been asking for a way to lose negative traits and gain positive ones as you spend more time in game. This is Guides Trait Magazines, and I actually really like the way this one works because you might think that magazines would make gaining traits a little too easy, but after having done some testing myself, the spawn rates are pretty balanced and they're not exactly common finds when compared to regular books, meaning you aren't going to gain every trait within the first week. On top of that, each magazine is 90 pages, so it's not a quick task to learn each one, and you'll need to balance that with time spent reading skill books too. If you have a negative trait like slow reader and you find the magazine for quick reading, it'll instead remove the negative trait, but if you don't have any negatives, you'd gain fast reader in the same example. Now I know this mod won't be for everyone because of course some people like to keep the game difficult and live with the choices they've made. That's part of the challenge for some, but for others this can offer a unique chance to develop your character over time, and that's why I wanted to highlight this one. So for our next mods today, let's take a look at some vehicles, shall we? Now I highlighted this in one of my recent videos, but if you haven't seen already, Filibuster Rhymes Used Cars now has an animation mod that fully animates all of your vehicles from that mod, which is an awesome development and has some really neat finer points to it, like the amount of items in the trunk actually showing up as physical loot in the vehicle. Now, by default, vanilla vehicles still spawn in-game when other vehicle mods are applied. With the mod Vehicle Spawn Edits for Filibuster Rhymes Used Cars, however, we can actually replace all of the existing vehicle spawns on the entire map with filibuster vehicles. There's also an additional mod that replaces the scenes you'll find out in the world, like say a police roadblock or a car crash found on the side of the road. With these mods in play, you'll be able to make sure that everything is not just higher quality in this department, but that it's uniform across the board as well. If you're looking for a completely different set of vehicles from your usual though, this next mod might be one to try. This is Extra Noise's Automobile Extravaganza, and if you're looking for a handful of new vehicles to try, it's one that I can definitely recommend. The mod adds about 16 new vehicles to the game, which might not sound like too many in the grand scheme of things, but you'll be happy to know that the modder hasn't stopped there. All of the vehicles they've added to the game are fully animated, with all vehicles also having a fleshed out interior that you can see when opening up the doors. On top of that, the mod also comes with a system where you can craft and attach vehicle armor. Now, the modder does say that right now this is just visual and doesn't actually provide any protection, but all the same, it's a fun little feature and one that the developer does want to bring functionality to at a later date, so you'll have that to look forward to. Okay, so a little while ago, I actually covered a mod for vehicles called Navigation that added a way for you to plot a route when driving. Since then, that mod has been remade and improved and is now called GPS Navigation. With this mod in use, you'll actually be able to find a GPS on rare occasions hidden in the glove box of cars out in the world. Alternatively, you can craft one yourself after reading Radio Magazine 2, acquiring electrical level 1, a screwdriver, and a handful of electrical supplies. Once you have one, just hold V and attach it to the vehicle. It'll then actually bring up a GPS monitor when driving that you can interact with, set waypoints, and even use autonomous driving if you want to. Sure, it might not be period accurate, but it's definitely a useful tool for long journeys and can make life a whole lot easier for you. So, you've had some cars and some things that help make traveling in them a little bit easier, but what if we take to the skies instead for a change? Now, there was a mod for this a while back, but it's been improved significantly with this next one. This is the Better Helicopter Rework mod, and to be honest, I'm not sure there's much I really need to explain about this one. You get to fly a helicopter in Project Zomboid, and it works surprisingly well. The only thing I guess I would like to see is for the helicopter to actually attract zombies, which it didn't seem to be doing in my game, but in terms of traveling around, it was surprisingly smooth, and I was able to fly over buildings and structures with ease. These helicopters can spawn around the map in various places that make sense for them, so you can actually plug this into a game, and it's more than just a fun mod to mess around with. It actually connects pretty well to any game. Like I say, I think the only thing that makes it a bit too easy is the fact that it doesn't draw any attention, which obviously something like this definitely would in a zombie apocalypse. Alright, so for the next couple of mods, we're actually going to take a look at graphical and performance improvements. First up, the Blood FPS Performance Fix mod. Those that have been playing multiplayer in Project Zomboid might be familiar with a setting that allows you to reduce the amount of blood splatter effects. It's quite a common fix for some FPS issues, but unfortunately it's not available in single player. With this mod in use, blood will automatically clean up every 3 in-game days, and it will also wash away during periods of rain or snowfall. Now, I will say that generally I don't experience many performance issues with Project Zomboid, but I know a lot of people do, and the modder has attached a really good example showing just how much cleaning up these blood spatters can actually do for your performance, going from 30 FPS to over 70 in one cleanup process. There's some guidance on the workshop page for this one that I'd strongly recommend reading, but it's fairly simple to set up and use. Now, next is a mod that I've been absolutely loving recently, and I want to thank the creator of this one for reaching out to me to put it on my radar, because it's really quite cool and I've been using it ever since. This is Beauty of Zomboid, a post-apocalyptic visual visual overhaul. And as the name suggests, it's essentially a full visual overhaul of the world to make it look like Kentucky has actually experienced a zombie apocalypse. There are over 5,000 retextures in this mod to make the world look less clean and a bit more weathered. You might think something like this is likely to have performance impact, but in my experience, nothing has really changed on this front. And the modder does make sure to mention that the replacements for existing textures are about the same size as the vanilla ones. Not only are a bunch of textures included in this mod, but you can actually choose between vanilla grass or two different alternatives the mod provides as well. If you're a fan of doing 10 years later runs and have been using Manic's 10 years later textures as well, you'll be glad to know that the two are compatible and can even complement each other on a lot of things. According to the workshop page, you can add this to an ongoing playthrough with no issues, but to be honest, I've been using this for every playthrough since. It's just a really stellar mod that adds a lot more feeling to the world around you. Okay, so sticking with textures, how about we take a look at our characters next? Spongy, a very popular creator when it comes to clothing mods, has released Spongy's character retexture mod. And if you're looking for a different style to the vanilla characters, I'd say this is one of the better ones out there, and it's a fairly recent release too. You can filter through a bunch of options on the character creation menu to decide if it's something you'd be interested in trying, or you can just jump straight in. I got a couple of comparisons side by side so that you can see the difference between models for both the male and female characters before and after this mod was in use. I don't think this one will be for everyone, but still something impressive that deserved to be shown off in my opinion. That brings me to the very last mod for today's video, and that's the gun sound overhaul mod, which I think was sorely needed for a bunch of the sounds currently in game. It's just not a strong suit for Project Zomboid, and that's okay, but this mod certainly makes them better. It doesn't just work with the vanilla options either. It applies to Firearms P41, Vanilla Firearms Expansion, and Brita's weapons as well, along with all their various expansion packs. Now, fair warning, some of the sounds are a bit louder than others, and you may want to go into the files to change some of those, which there's some handy instructions for on the workshop page. But with over 800 different sound files, I think the modder has done a great job here, and it's definitely an improvement overall. So that's it from me in this one, folks, and that's all the mods for this month. Once again, you can find a link to all of the mods in this video down in the description as part of a single collection, and if there's any mods you want me to cover in any upcoming videos, just drop me a comment below and let me know. Special thank you to all of my Patreon supporters for helping me keep doing what I love and for playing on our whitelisted Project Zomboid server for as little as £3 a month, where we host unique events, monthly themes, and commission our own mods for the wider community. Thanks everyone, and I will see you all in the next one.